Eliza Morgan stared at the pregnancy test, two lines clearly visible against the white plastic. Her hands trembled as she set it down on the bathroom counter. This should have been a moment of joy, but tears stung her eyes for all the wrong reasons. The front door slammed downstairs. Marcus was home early from his business trip. She tucked the test into her pocket and splashed cold water on her face before heading downstairs. "Hey," Marcus said, his voice unusually cheerful. He was unpacking a paper bag of takeout. "I brought your favorite curry." Eliza studied her husband of 5 years, his tousled brown hair, the stubble on his jawline, and the faint smell of unfamiliar perfume clinging to his collar. A perfume she had smelled too many times before. "How thoughtful," she replied, her voice flat. They ate in silence, the curry tasting like ash in her mouth. Every few minutes, Marcus checked his phone, smiling at messages that weren't from her. "I need to tell you something," she finally said, setting down her fork. "Can it wait?" "I'm exhausted from the trip," he yawned, already standing to leave the table. "I'm pregnant." Marcus froze mid-step, then slowly turned to face her. "What?" "I'm pregnant," she repeated, her voice steadier than she felt. That's impossible." "We've been careful." His face paled. "Not careful enough, apparently." Marcus ran his hand through his hair, pacing the kitchen. "This is bad timing, Eliza. With my promotion coming up and the renovation plan." "Bad timing for your affair, you mean?" The words escaped before she could stop them. His eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" "The perfume, Marcus. The late nights. The business trips that your office knows nothing about. Did you think I wouldn't find out?" His expression hardened. "You're being paranoid." "Am I?" She pulled out her phone, showing him the photos her friend had sent. Marcus entering a hotel with a woman, his hand on the small of her back. The color drained from his face. "Eliza, I can explain." "Don't bother." She stood, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I've heard enough explanations. What about the baby?" His voice cracked. "You can't just—" "Can't what, Marcus? Keep it? Get rid of it? What exactly are you suggesting?" He looked away, unable to meet her eyes. "It's complicated. No, it's very simple. You need to leave. This is my house too." "Not anymore," she whispered, tears finally breaking free. "I want a divorce." The following weeks passed in a blur of legal documents and hushed phone calls. Marcus moved out, taking only the essentials. Their friends chose sides, most distancing themselves from the mess entirely. At the clinic, Eliza sat in the waiting room, appointment card clutched in her trembling hands. When Marcus burst through the door, wild-eyed and disheveled, she wasn't entirely surprised. "Don't do this," he begged, drawing stares from others in the room. "You made your choice," she said softly. "I made a mistake. Please, Eliza, I'll do better. We can raise this child together." The nurse called her name. Eliza stood, gathering her purse. "I'm sorry, Marcus." Later, as she exited the clinic alone, she saw him waiting in the parking lot. Their eyes met briefly before she turned away. "It's done," she called out, not stopping to see his reaction. "You don't have to worry anymore." He didn't follow her, and she didn't look back. What Marcus didn't know, what she had decided in that quiet waiting room, was that she had only gone for a prenatal checkup. The baby was healthy, growing steadily inside her. But that was information she would keep to herself. By morning, she would be on a bus to the coast, to start a new life where no one knew her name or her past. A place where her child could grow up free from the shadow of a father who never wanted them in the first place. Sandpoint was a small coastal town with pastel-colored houses facing the endless blue of the ocean. Eliza had chosen it precisely because it wasn't on any map that mattered. She rented a modest cottage at the edge of town, its weathered blue paint matching the horizon. 3 months had passed since she left her old life behind. Her belly had begun to show, a gentle curve that she hid beneath flowing dresses and loose tops. To the townspeople, she was simply Eliza, the quiet newcomer who worked remotely as a graphic designer. No one questioned her story about being a widow seeking a fresh start. One evening, as the sun melted into the ocean, Eliza walked along the deserted beach. The salt breeze tangled her hair as she collected shells, imagining someday showing them to her child. "Those are sand dollars," came a melodious voice from behind her. "They're supposed to bring good luck." Eliza turned to find a woman standing barefoot in the sand. Her features were delicate, almost ethereal, with high cheekbones and almond-shaped eyes that caught the fading sunlight. But what struck Eliza most was the woman's skin, a soft lavender hue that seemed to shimmer against the twilight. "I'm Lyra," the woman said, extending a slender hand with graceful fingers. "You must be the newcomer everyone's talking about." "Eliza," she replied, accepting the handshake. "And yes, though I didn't realize I was gossip-worthy." Lyra laughed, the sound like wind chimes. Small towns. Breathe wrong and it's headline news. They walked together as darkness fell, Lyra explaining that her unusual skin color was a rare condition. Some people stare, others ask intrusive questions. "That's why I like it here. People mind their business, mostly." Over the following weeks, Eliza found herself drawn to Lyra's company. They would meet for tea at the local cafe or take evening walks along the shoreline. Lyra never commented on Eliza's growing belly, never pried into her past. One night, during a particularly violent storm, Lyra appeared at Eliza's doorstep, soaked to the bone. "Power's out at my place," she explained, shivering. Eliza welcomed her inside, lending her dry clothes and building a fire in the small hearth. They sat wrapped in blankets, the storm raging outside. "You're carrying a child," Lyra finally said, her eyes reflecting the dancing flames. Eliza instinctively placed a protective hand over her belly. "Yes, the father?" "Not in the picture," Eliza replied sharply, then softened. "I'm sorry, it's complicated." Lyra nodded, understanding in her unusual eyes. "Life often is." That night, as they talked into the early hours, Eliza felt something shift inside her, a warmth that had been absent for too long. When Lyra gently placed her palm against Eliza's stomach, and the baby kicked in response, both women laughed in delight. "She likes you," Eliza whispered. "She?" Lyra smiled. "Just a feeling." Before dawn, as Lyra slept on the couch, Eliza stood by the window watching the storm recede. For the first time since leaving, she felt something akin to peace. Yet a shadow of worry remained. How long before her past caught up with her? How long before Marcus discovered her deception? As if sensing her thoughts, Lyra stirred. "Whatever you're running from," she murmured sleepily, "you don't have to face it alone anymore." Eliza turned from the window, a tear sliding down her cheek. In this strange woman with lavender skin, she had found an unexpected ally in a world that had shown her little kindness. Outside, the first light of dawn broke through the clouds, painting the sea in shades of purple and gold. A new day, a new beginning. Marcus Sullivan stared at the whiskey glass in his hand, wondering when exactly his life had unraveled. 6 months had passed since Eliza walked out of that clinic, out of his life. 6 months of sleepless nights and guilt-ridden days. "You look like hell," remarked his brother David, sliding into the bar stool beside him. "Thanks for the observation," Marcus muttered, signaling the bartender for another drink. "Have you tried calling her again?" Marcus laughed bitterly. "Her number's disconnected. She closed all her social media accounts. It's like she vanished." David sighed, ordering a beer. "Maybe that's for the best. Clean break and all that." But Marcus couldn't let go. The image of Eliza leaving the clinic that day haunted him. Her eyes hollow, her words final. "It's done. You don't have to worry anymore." He had driven her to that point, driven her to make a choice no woman should face alone. The following morning, nursing a hangover, Marcus checked his mail. Among the bills and advertisements was a thin envelope with no return address. Inside was a single photograph, a sunset over an ocean, and written on the back in handwriting he recognized immediately. "Found peace at last." It wasn't much, but it was something. A clue. 3 weeks and a private investigator later, Marcus stood at the entrance to Sandpoint, a coastal town he'd never heard of. The investigator had traced the postmark to this area, noting that a woman matching Eliza's description had rented a cottage here 6 months ago. The local cafe became his stakeout point, a place where he could observe the town while remaining inconspicuous. On his 3rd day, he nearly dropped his coffee cup when he saw her, Eliza, her chestnut hair longer now, walking down the main street. But what made his heart stop wasn't seeing her after so long. It was the unmistakable roundness of her belly, prominent even beneath her flowing dress. She hadn't gone through with it. She was still pregnant, very pregnant. Marcus stepped outside, his legs unsteady. "Eliza!" She froze, turning slowly to face him. Her expression shifted from shock to something harder, more guarded. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was cold, one hand protectively cradling her stomach. "You lied to me," he whispered, unable to take his eyes off her belly. You lied first, she countered. Many times. People were starting to stare. Eliza glanced around nervously, then motioned him to follow her to a quieter spot near the beach. How did you find me? Your postcard. She closed her eyes briefly, cursing her moment of weakness. You should leave, Marcus. There's nothing for you here. Nothing? That's my child, Eliza. Our child. You made it very clear how you felt about this baby. I was scared, confused. I made a terrible mistake, he pleaded. Let me make it right. She laughed without humor. Which mistake? The affairs, the lies, or just the part where you didn't want our baby? Before he could respond, a woman with strikingly unusual lavender skin approached them, her eyes narrowing at Marcus. Everything okay, Eliza? She asked, her melodious voice tinged with concern. Fine, Lyra. This is an old friend. He was just leaving. The message was clear. Marcus backed away, but his resolve only strengthened. He had lost Eliza through his own selfishness, but he wouldn't abandon his child. Not again. I've rented a room in town, he told her. I'm not going anywhere until we talk, really talk. As he walked away, he felt Eliza's eyes following him. And for the first time in months, Marcus felt something other than despair. A flicker of hope. Fragile but persistent. Eliza paced the length of her cottage, Lyra watching silently from the window seat. Outside, the moon cast a silver path across the dark waters. He'll ruin everything, Eliza said, her voice trembling with anger and something deeper, fear. You knew this might happen eventually, Lyra replied gently. The past has a way of finding us. Eliza sank onto the couch, suddenly exhausted. I can't go back to that life, Lyra. The lies, the betrayal. I won't put my daughter through that. Lyra moved to sit beside her, taking her hand. Then don't. But perhaps there's a middle path, one where your child knows her father without you losing yourself. They sat in silence, the only sound the rhythmic ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. Finally, Eliza spoke. There's something else I need to know, something I've been afraid to ask. Lyra tensed almost imperceptibly. What is it? You, Eliza said softly. Your skin, your eyes, the way you seem to know things before they happen. You're not just someone with a rare condition, are you? The silence stretched between them, taut as a wire. No, Lyra finally admitted. I'm not. That night, under a canopy of stars, Lyra revealed her truth. She spoke of a world parallel to Earth, separated by the thinnest of veils. A world where her people, beings of light and energy, had evolved differently. She had crossed over during a cosmic alignment, curious about human life, and found herself unable to return when the portal closed. I've been here for 3 years, she explained, her lavender skin seeming to glow under the moonlight, learning to be human, to belong. Eliza listened, not with fear or disbelief, but with growing wonder. Why tell me now? Because you trusted me with your truth, Lyra said simply, and because I've grown to care for you, and for her. She placed a gentle hand on Eliza's belly. The baby kicked in response, as if recognizing Lyra's touch, and both women smiled. Meanwhile, in his rented room, Marcus sat at a small desk, writing words he had rehearsed 1,000 times in his head, a letter to Eliza laying bare his soul, his regrets, his hopes, his promise to be better. Not just for her, but for their child. He wrote about the therapy sessions he'd begun, confronting the deep-seated fears that had driven him to seek validation outside their marriage. He wrote about the emptiness of his life without her, and how finding her pregnant had shaken him to his core. A second chance he didn't deserve but desperately wanted. As dawn approached, both Eliza and Marcus made decisions that would alter the course of their lives. Eliza to allow Marcus the opportunity to know his daughter, with clear boundaries. Marcus to prove through actions, not just words, that he could be the man Eliza had once believed him to be. And Lyra, caught between worlds, realized that in Eliza and her unborn child, she had found something she never expected. A family, a connection, a reason to stay. Under the fading stars, 3 souls stood at a crossroads, their paths converging in ways none could have imagined. The contractions began during a violent summer storm. Eliza doubled over in the kitchen, water pooling at her feet, fear gripping her heart. She was only at 34 weeks. Too early. Lyra was by her side in an instant, her lavender hands steady as she helped Eliza to the couch. "I'll call an ambulance," she said, her voice calm despite the panic in her eyes. But the storm had knocked out the phone lines, and Eliza's cell showed no service. The baby was coming, and they were stranded. "Marcus," Eliza gasped between contractions. "His rental is just down the road." Lyra hesitated, torn between staying with Eliza and seeking help. "I'll be back with him as fast as I can," she promised, pressing a kiss to Eliza's forehead before disappearing into the storm. Alone, Eliza fought against rising terror. "Hold on, little one," she whispered, stroking her belly. "Just a little longer." Minutes stretched like hours until the door burst open, bringing in rain and wind, and Marcus, his clothes soaked, his face pale with worry. Behind him, Lyra entered with an elderly woman. "This is Martha," Lyra explained quickly. She was a midwife for 30 years. Martha took charge immediately, her weathered hands experienced and gentle. "This baby's coming now, storm or no storm." What followed was a blur of pain and fear and wonder. Marcus held Eliza's hand, murmuring encouragement, his eyes never leaving her face. Lyra stood at her other side, a steady presence, her unusual energy seeming to flow into Eliza, giving her strength. When complications arose, the baby's heartbeat dropping dangerously, a strange calm settled over Lyra. She placed both hands on Eliza's stomach, closed her eyes, and began humming a melody unlike anything human ears had heard before. The room filled with a soft lavender glow emanating from Lyra's skin. Martha gasped, crossing herself, but continued her work. Marcus stared in disbelief as the monitor showed the baby's heartbeat stabilizing, growing stronger. "Push now, dear," Martha urged. And with a final, tremendous effort, Eliza brought her daughter into the world. The storm outside quieted, as if in reverence for the new life. The baby's cry, strong and defiant, filled the cottage. Martha cleaned and wrapped her in a soft blanket before placing her in Eliza's arms. "She's perfect," Eliza whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Luna! Her name is Luna." Marcus tentatively touched his daughter's tiny hand, his eyes brimming with emotions too complex to name. "Hello, Luna," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm your dad." In that moment, watching them, Lyra felt something shift, a pulling sensation, a call from beyond. Outside, the clouds had parted to reveal a night sky alive with stars, and among them a rare celestial alignment, her gateway home, open once more. Later, as dawn approached and Luna slept peacefully in an improvised crib, the three adults sat in the living room, exhaustion and joy mingling in the air between them. "I felt it," Lyra said quietly. "My way home has opened." Eliza reached for her hand. "Will you go?" Lyra looked at the sleeping baby, then at Eliza, and finally at Marcus, who had shown her that humans, for all their flaws, were capable of profound change. "I once crossed worlds out of curiosity," she said. "Now I find myself wanting to stay for love." Marcus cleared his throat. "I don't understand everything that happened tonight, but I know you saved our daughter. Whatever you are, wherever you're from, thank you." As the first light of morning touched the horizon, decisions were made, promises exchanged. Marcus would stay in Sandpoint not to reclaim Eliza, but to be present for Luna. Eliza would allow him into their lives, cautiously at first, with clear boundaries. And Lyra would remain, bridging two worlds, the one she came from and the one she had chosen. Outside, the storm had washed everything clean. The sea glittered under the new day's light, and in the small blue cottage, a family unlike any other began to take shape, imperfect, unusual, but bound by something stronger than blood or obligation. Love, in all its complicated forms, had built a bridge between worlds, between hearts, between past wounds and future possibilities, and walking across that bridge, step by careful step, they moved forward together into the unknown.